Welcome everyone to the Canadian Developer Community Connection. Bienvenue tout le monde aux connexions commentaires canadiennes pour les développeurs et développeuses. Comment allez-vous? How is everyone? So just let you know, this session is in English, but I will drop some French in here and there because we are Canadian. And so for those who have joined us, we'll get started in just a moment. Let me go back to my slides. So like I said, bienvenue, welcome everyone. I know you're all super excited to get started, but we're just gonna wait a few moments as people kind of shuffle in. It's kind of like in person, but online you gotta click there, click that. So I will give you about 30 seconds to go get up, stretch it out, get some water. You've been sitting at your desk for a while. I know, just kind of like stretching it out. And so I'll time you. We could do a little timer, but by the time I'm done talking, probably we'll be done the 30 seconds. So again, bienvenue, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you're just joining us now, we're just getting started. Don't worry, I gave everyone 30 seconds to go run to the washroom quickly, run around the house, do some stretching, and we'll be good to go. And so the first thing that I really want to call out, it's really important, is our code of conduct. If you have not seen it yet, please go take a look at it. What I really want to highlight is if there's any issues at all, please use the Q&A, submit anonymously if you need to. There's a feature for that, so please take advantage. But also we do have a number for you to call, 1-877-320-MSFT, or you can use the email that's listed there. I'll repeat that in French. So le numéro que vous pouvez appeler, c'est 1-877-320-MSFT ou bien l'adresse courriel ici, tu peux utiliser. And so this is the time that I say, put your phones on silent. Please take a moment. But just kidding. This is not a movie. We want you to interact, so please take advantage of the Q&A chat that you see on the side there on the right. Ask us questions, posez vos questions. This is what we're here for. This is a dedicated time for you to ask your questions. That's why we're here, and we're really excited to see how your build is going. And so I also want to see you kind of light up that chat. I want to see where you all are from. Are you from East Coast, West Coast, Central? Let us know. Reach out to us on Twitter, MSDevCA. Let us know how your build is going. What's your favorite sessions? How have you been feeling? What's new and what's getting you excited? So let us know, and I'll take a look at the chat in a moment. But let's just take a look quickly at the agenda. So right now we're at the welcome part. We're just getting started. We're excited. We don't want it to end. I know you've all been looking forward to this session since Build came out. You're so excited. Alors maintenant, on est juste au bienvenue. On dit les bonjours. And then we're going to get into some lightning talks from two of our incredible cloud advocates local from Canada. And so get ready for that. On va avoir deux présentations éclairs de nos cloud advocates de Microsoft au Canada. And then we'll follow up with a session on tech for good. And so really excited for this segment with two of our Microsoft MVPs who I'm so excited were able to join us today. And so we'll dive into those two sessions. On va précéder avec deux sessions qui discutent un peu de la technologie pour le bon, qui vient de deux de nos cloud advocates, MVP Microsoft. Alors ça c'est vraiment excitant. And then we'll proceed with dev learning and resources that we have for you, and maybe a special little Canadian announcement, so stay tuned for that. Après, on va avoir l'apprentissage et les ressources pour les devs, peut-être un rabais spécial juste pour les Canadiennes à ne pas manquer. And then we'll come to the end, we'll have great memories, we'll be sad that it's ending, but we'll say thank you and kind of go from there. And so really, let's meet the people. On va rencontrer les gens who are on the call with us today. And so we have, like I said, two amazing cloud advocates, Anthony Bartolo and Frank Boucher. We're super excited. And then we have our two, like I was saying earlier, our Microsoft MVPs who are with us. So Richard Campbell and Karen McCall, so excited that they can join us today. And then we have myself, Kim Noel, who's going to try to entertain you in between sessions. And then my partner in crime, Adarsha Dada, as well, who's here. And so you'll see that there's a URL at the bottom, aka.ms/build.ca connection. And so think of that kind of like as your one-stop shop for all the content and resources that we're going to share today. If it's not already up on there, we'll get it added, don't worry. So feel free if you're joining in late, or you have to skip out a bit later, you can head over to that URL and take a look at what's been going on in the resources. And then just some kind of, for your information, some housekeeping. The session is recorded, but we do encourage you to stay on because you get to ask those questions and get that experience live. So how to engage with us, ask your questions in the right side of the little panel. You'll see the Q&A chat. So please ask your questions. Hopefully, if we can't get you answered, we'll give an email at the end. But and do take advantage of the Ask Anonymous feature that we have there if you feel more comfortable. So juste pour votre information, cette session est enregistrée. Comment s'engager avec nous? Il va y avoir comme un questions et réponses section juste à côté que vous pouvez demander vos questions and we'll answer you. If you're more comfortable asking your question in French, please do so. I speak French. Frank Boucher as well, presenter, will also be able to answer questions for you. So how you feeling? Everyone looking good? Let me take a look at the chat. Things are going well? Things are good? All right. So I'm gonna skip over here and let's get started with the lightning talks. So first up, I want to introduce Anthony Bartolo. If you don't know him, he is incredible, always super excited to see his sessions, and sometimes I get to work with him, which is great. And so he'll be doing a session on applying AI to save lives. And so let me just kind of get him set up, and I'll let him introduce himself because he kind of knows himself best, right? So let's do that. Let's get Anthony up here. He can share does he want to share his screen? Maybe his video. Let's see. Give us a moment.
Yep, sharing it now.
Awesome. Take it away, Anthony.
Perfect. So thank you, everybody, for attending today's session. Excited to be here, presenting to Canada and representing Canada on the global stage, which has been awesome. And this is a story that I get to share around the world in respect to how we worked with the Canadian Coast Guard to enable drones to be self-sufficient in finding out when a issue is with a boat or a ship is in distress and how to report back on the situation. I think the camera is not working, but it's okay. We'll just keep moving on. So AI. This is something that a lot of people talk about in regards to, I want to include AI into my organization. I want to adopt AI to make more money. I want to adopt AI to save my organization money. And it becomes a challenge in respect to people are so quick to jump on board and, I want to deploy and rub a little AI on my product and it's going to make me more money. What people fail to realize is that AI is a relationship that has to occur first. It has to be a conversation that occurs before connecting any of the devices that are out there and the plethora of devices that are available. There has to be that conversation that occurs with the business decision maker, with operations, and the developers of the organization that it supports. Reason being, got to move forward together, got to move forward in terms of what is the best foot forward for the organization into deploying the aspects or practices of artificial intelligence. What is the enablement that's going to occur when I deploy or enable this type of functionality? How do I, work with others amidst the organization to ensure that everybody is invested in the project or invested in the initiative that's moving forward in terms of artificial intelligence? We're moving so rapidly in terms of the adoption of technology and in terms of the adoption of IoT specifically, and the fact that I can go to the local Canadian Tire, pick up a light bulb that's IoT enabled, connect it into my house, and have that availability to, turn on and turn off my light from my smartphone, or understand what my power usage is in terms of light bulbs that are all throughout my house. Again, it's been so consumerized now that I can go to the local retailer and pick up that device and plug it in and away it go. The challenge that's occurring with that, though, is that because there's so much information that's being captured, there's a plethora of information that's being captured for that matter. Where do you store it all? How do you digest it all? Do you have the compute cycles or the time to go through all the data that's being captured? So you're starting to see this new innovation called edge computing, in terms of at the point of entry from these IoT devices, understanding the data from that endpoint of capture to understand what is actually important in terms of the data that's being captured, and then only putting the outcome or the result of that data up into the cloud. This is where the Canadian Coast Guard project comes into play. Here is the Henry Lawson. This is one of the largest ships that they have in the Coast Guard fleet. And every time this ship leaves the bay or the docking, it's millions of dollars worth of investment for the ship to do so. And so in some cases, it's very important that the ship is the one that goes out to rescue individuals or a ship that's in distress. But what if, we were able to get better information in terms of what the actual situation was of the ship being in distress, and are there, people in distress alongside the ship, or is just the ship being disabled and a tugboat has to go out? This is where we worked on the proof of concept with a startup called Indro, based out of BC. And what we did was in 4 days, we ran a proof of concept. Could we provide intelligence to a drone? Could we provide the ability for a drone to detect a specific instance or a specific problem that may occur when a ship is out at sea? Obviously, there's a ton of problems that could occur, engine failure or the ship has sprung a leak. But what we wanted to do was the one situation that would be most impactful. What we decided on in terms of this project was, if the ship was in distress and it was such a situation where individuals can't stay on the boat anymore and they have to jump off, could we detect individuals in the water wearing the life jackets? It was, a great labor of love in terms of this project, because it could actually make a real difference when deployed in production scenarios. So the fact that we were able to take these drones and do 5,000 hours worth of training for the drones to understand what life jackets look like at different altitudes, at different visibility, so in rain and sunshine, in different bodies of water, in lakes and in ocean, the ability to understand this is what a life jacket is, and that in essence it becomes our trigger. And with that trigger, you then have the ability to do an IR scan to ensure that there's actually a body mass inside of that life jacket. So actually have an understanding that, yep, there's an individual that's in the life jacket that's in the water, and then capturing the environmentals to understand, what is the temperatures that are out there? What is the temperature, the possible temperature of the water? What is the time till hypothermia may set in for that victim? This is what we were able to accomplish using the drones in terms of this availability. Now, we talked about the plethora of data that's being transmitted back and forth. Could you imagine the amount of data that would have to be transferred, especially in the fact that the drones would have to operate at 720p at minimum in terms of data capture, if it was a live stream coming back and forth? Not to mention that these drones actually fly 3 hours at sea, so the only way that there would be connectivity would be the connectivity occurring through, through satellite, not through cellular. So the cost would be astronomically high. In this scenario here, and making the drone self-aware, it would have that understanding to go out and understand these are individuals in the water. This is the issue that we need to address, and then report accordingly in terms of best practices or best foot forward to actually save those individuals in the water. I'm going to run through a quick demo, and I've done this in screenshots for you, so we can do it quickly just for the time that we have. Really quickly, if you haven't played with this yet, this is the Custom Vision workbench that we have available. So customvision.ai is where you would go. And we're not going to do the drone scenario because that'd be a little bit complicated to do that right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually add images of tools. And we're going to train the model, the computer vision model, to understand the differences between a hammer and a wrench. So everybody here can see on the screen that we have a bunch of hammers that are out there. And we label all these images as hammers. And then we add in wrenches, and we label all these images as wrenches. And then we go forward and train the model. And so it goes through iterations in terms of understanding the objects that it's looking at and understanding the difference between what is a wrench and what is a hammer. And then it comes back with a recall. And so here we have it a 96% recall that it can understand the difference between a hammer and a wrench. Obviously, the more tools that you have, the lesser the recall will be. But if you put more images, that will up the number up. It's all relative in terms of how much data you provide to the Custom Vision workbench to understand the differences between different objects. What I then do is export this information, because the fact that I'm going to be running this on the edge, I'm going to be running this on a device without connectivity, so that it becomes self-aware in terms of what it's looking at. And in the case of the drones, when we did this scenario for Canadian Coast Guard, we actually deployed it as a Docker file that would run on top of a Raspberry Pi on a customized drone unit to actually run the identification of the life jacket as the trigger. But in this scenario here, what we're going to actually do is we're going to run with an open source identifier. We're going to use Onyx as our filter to understand the objects that the device will be looking at. And what we'll do is we'll export that Onyx file, and we're going to export this Onyx file into Unity. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. So taking that Onyx file, converting it into a model file inside of Unity, and invoking the cameras on the HoloLens for the HoloLens to understand what objects it's actually looking at. So from that respect, if you want to emulate or copy this project, my GitHub repo is aka.ms/wirelesslife, and it'll give you access to this and other projects that I've done in the past that you can replicate and take advantage of. So here's the result. So now we take a HoloLens that has no connectivity and is actually able to recognize up to 72 objects on its own just by optical recognition of said objects. So we had a basketball, we have a soccer ball, and it also tells you the percentage of accuracy in terms of what they're looking at. I'll look at my piano, I can go to my computer, and it's understanding in terms of the object that it's looking at to have that capability to, this is what I'm seeing. Now, if you imagine you were streaming this data to the cloud to make the deduction at the cloud, it would be costly. So doing it at the edge makes much more sense in regards to having that benefit of understanding at the edge what the objects are being looked at for cost savings and for data savings, so that you don't have, plethora of data that's being chewed through. You just have the result in terms of identifying what a basketball, soccer ball, what have you. Now, don't fret if you don't have access to a HoloLens or a HoloLens 2. This here is the Azure Connect SDK that is available from Microsoft as well. It provides you the same capabilities in terms of depth and IR understanding of imagery that the HoloLens would have. And better yet, it allows you to then plug in this device into your CPU of choice. So I'm actually currently doing a test right now utilizing the Jetson Nano, where we're doing a new proof of concept that we'll be running in future in terms of the work that was based on the drone scenario. But as you can see, in terms of this functionality, in plugging in my Azure Connect SDK into the Nano, I have the ability to see, optically. I can see in terms of light, and I can see in terms of IR the objects that I'm looking at. Now, where does this become beneficial, and why do we share the GitHub repos like we do? As mentioned, we love it when others attend these sessions, take advantage of the technology and the learnings that we had, and take it upon themselves to deploy their own solutions. Case in point, in Australia, they've taken the architecture that we've built out for the drones, for the life jacket scenario for Canadian Coast Guard, and are using the same technology to understand the dampness of fields, of farmers' fields, to know, which fields need more water. These drones are actually connected directly into the irrigation systems for these farmers in Australia and have the ability to turn on or turn off the water as required to ensure that there's an optimal level of water made available for the crops that are out there. Don't stop learning at Build. Make sure that you take everything that you've learned, you're capturing all these repos, take it a step further. Make sure you do visit microsoft.com/learn. This project and other projects that were completed are actually available in Learn and are broken down in terms of step-by-step instructions that allow you to follow along and follow suit to take advantage of the technology that's out there. And in some cases, we have sandboxes that are available for you to play in, which are at no cost to you to actually test out the technology. So my name, Anthony Bartolo, Senior Cloud Advocate with Microsoft. If you have any questions, the information to contact me is available here. Kim and Adarsh team also have my information that you can forward to, and I will be sticking around for the rest of the presentation to capture any questions that may have come in. You've been an awesome audience.
Hey, Anthony, there's a few questions in the chat. Did you want to answer them by chat, or should we do them maybe vocally? Like, how do you want to do? So we have a bit of time, so we're a bit
we have a bit of time? Okay, that's okay. Yeah. Sorry, I tried to keep on time for you.
No, no worries.
Okay, so question from Sesh. Do you have to rain every object, or is it adaptive from the source, like Tesla or Uber? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Do you have to rain every object, or is... So I'm guessing you're saying train. So in the scenario with the HoloLens that you saw, yes, I would actually have to train each object. So similar to what you saw in terms of the hammer and the wrench, you would actually have to provide a set of images to computer vision inside of the workbench to train the objects themselves, to train the service itself to identify the objects. Can I train it on the Edge PC, or must I be online to Azure for training? So Ken, you actually train it inside of the workbench first. So customvision.ai is the workbench where you were trained, which is an Azure-based solution. Once you've completed training the solution in terms of the objects, you then export the Onyx file. There is an iOS offering. There's a Docker offering that you would then run on your Edge device, and that would be the device that would then capture the information to understand what they're actually looking at in terms of objects. And I think, is there any more questions? Let's see.
Anthony, you just could look into the published questions. There are a couple of questions from Marco, if you can just look into that.
There we go. Marco has a question here. Would you have to be an air combat officer to fly the UAV? So yes, so in terms of the UAV, you would be required to be certified or licensed to fly that drone, specifically that drone, only because the drone that we were using is an industrial one. So it's a gas-powered drone. I think it has an 8-hour time period of airtime. But the solution that we built was such that it was so easy to port over to the HoloLens because of the fact that the framework is identical. It's exactly the same. And it's the reason why we share it in the GitHub repo. For that matter, I have heard of individuals that are actually flying DJI units and have modified them to adopt this technology to recognize objects. I know that the DJI doesn't have as much storage is capable in terms of identification, and there would be some customization that's required. I know that people have been adding peripheral boards to the DJI units to make this available, but it is a possible piece as well. Anthony Bartolo, would the AI be used to get past Google replica? Sorry, Marco, I understand that question. The AI be get past the Google reCAPTCHA in selecting all images. So there is no real reCAPTCHA in the architecture and the solution itself. So I'm not 100% on that question there. Definitely reach out to me if you can provide me a little bit more depth. Happy to help out. We got that one. We got that one. I think that's it. I believe that's it.
Ooh, all right. And again, if you have any other questions for Anthony, feel free to ship it in the chat. And if not, we can follow up with Anthony's details to get in touch with him. So thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
If you wait a minute, I have something cool. Wait for it. Wait for it.
There you go.
Can you hear that? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. All right, I'm gonna try to share my screen again, if that can work, and if not, that's okay. So sharing, just gonna narrate what I'm doing because it's easier for the folks. Oh, there I am. Didn't want to do that. There we go, send live, and then we'll continue. All right, so folks still there, still energized, still going good? All right, so let's move on to our next amazing presenter, Frank Boucher. Whoa, okay, exciting. Is gonna talk to us about how to stay productive when working remotely. Very excited for this one. I'll let Frank introduce himself, and if Frank wants to share his screen with his amazing slides. Frank, you can go ahead right now and do that for the folks to see. And while you're doing that, I have this lovely book of 101 wacky computer jokes that I found while going through all my stuff from Scholastic Book Fair, the 90s, folks. So I have a question for you all, and I will answer it after Frank's session. What do you call a computer superhero? Frank, take it away.
Hello, so can you hear me?
Yes, well, I hear you. I hope everyone can as well.
Okay, so let's get started. So yeah, so thank you. I will be presenting like a short presentation about how to stay productive when working remotely. I'm Frank Boucher, I'm a cloud advocate, and this is not high science. This is just me sharing what I accumulate with my 7 years of working from home. If you think I forgot some great apps or a fantastic tool, let me know in the chat. Reach out to the social, and I will definitely answer back. So let's get started. So first thing, it's not magic. Don't think you will find a pills or a gadget that you will be plugged and suddenly next morning you're 200% more productive. That's not true. It all starts by you. You need to want to be more productive, and because it's real life, it will take time and it will take effort. So today I'm sharing a few tips. Don't try to do all them all at once. Give you a chance, and I think we can find something to help you being more productive. Okay, so first, you're going at work, so go to work. You could get dressed first. I'm not just talking about pants, I'm talking full dress. Sometime when I know I'm meeting important clients and stuff, I will even wear shoes in my house. I usually don't. I don't like wearing shoes in my house, but it kind of helped me to trick my mind and get in the zone, because, you know, if we want to be more productive, we need to be more focused. So helping to be in the zone, it really helps. I know some folks, they miss the commute when they work at home. So sometimes they will just, you know, put the headset on and do a walk around the block, or, you know, the park, or something like get a coffee. If you can afford it, go to the Starbucks, get coffee. So when you get back to the office, home, then you're in the mindset, okay, I'm at work now. So that's always kind of easy to do. Then the second thing, and it look very, very simple, but I'm sure more now than ever, make a schedule. And I'm not talking 9 to 5 here. I'm talking whatever schedule work for you. And it could be split days, maybe with your better half. You know, you have kids, so you need to, you know, check the kids because they are young, or just maybe like me, your kid are older and you still need to check them. So, you know, build your schedule. And the hardest part is respect the schedule. So for example, for me, I'm a morning guy. So I wake up very, very early and start working. Now, then after 3 hours of work, I pause. And I have 2 hours of free time while I have my breakfast, I read, but I'm not looking at my email. I'm not responding. It looks simple, but it's not, because in my team, people are interrupt and stuff like that. So they want me live. So they are poking me and sending me messages, but this is my time and I relax and I do other things. So that's my schedule, and it's hard sometimes to respect it. So just find the schedule that suits you and really, really try to respect it. And it's hard because, you know, tension is over there. The phone is always closed. The computer is already present. So respect that thing. You're not a machine, right? You shouldn't. I'm pretty sure you're human. So don't try to achieve everything. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Tomorrow you need to wake up again and do a lot of tasks. So have a top 3, not a to-do list of 25 things. Have a top 3. And I always start my days with 3 things. I need to do those 3 things and I will feel my day productive. Maybe it will be 5, but, you know, just bonuses. Also, it helps to do little things and plan a little bit ahead. I will show you some apps that could help with that, but, you know, just pen and paper could also help. Don't pretend you can multitask. It's not true. It's called context switching, and it doesn't work. If you can, try to make time block where you specify, okay, I'm only working on that project or only for this client. If you can manage to do it a full day, that's bad. That's better. That's super good. But maybe it's not working for you because maybe it will be too long before you work again on that specific project. For me, what work well is most of the time half a day. So in Monday morning, we'll work on something. Maybe on Monday PM, it will be the same project, but maybe it will be something else. I try to focus and have half a day is kind of the smallest period that I could block, like the biggest block I can reserve. So, you know, again, find the sweet spot for you. Again, sometimes we're in meeting and a lot of people are not turning on their webcam, and I think the webcam can also help you to be productive, because when the webcam is on, you need to pay attention. People are watching you, right? They are seeing you. So if you are just looking on the side and answering email, well, they see you. And you know what? By doing that, you're not productive. You're not helping the meeting. Being present at the meeting, not multitasking, the meeting could go faster. So, you know, achieving more time, doing one thing at a time, but fully committed. Take notes. This is an example of the kind of notes I was taking, and I was using that on, like, I just reproduced that right now on screen, but I was doing that on pen with a pen and paper, and it was, for me, it was very important because I was doing a timesheet at that time, and I needed to remember what I was doing for every hour, or I was asked to be as precise as half an hour. So sometime at the end of the week, it was like, okay, what I was doing, you know, Tuesday on between 3 and 4, it was hard. So having that, it was really helping me to get structure, keep track of everything I was doing. And I was doing, like I told you, my three little square on the top of the screen. That was my top 3 things to do, and I need to check those things. So every morning when I decide what are my top priority, of course I check the day before. If the priority, the little square were not checked, then I was bringing them, or maybe they were canceled because, you know, it's too late, then, you know, I could adjust. And it was also very helping me because I was putting times, and it was helping me because, you know, sometimes you're distracted. So there's an apps, I will talk about that to help you. And talking about apps, I know, you know, we're all waiting for that. Let's talk about tech. So here are just a few suggestions. I'm not saying that, you know, those are the best one or something. They're just apps that work really well for me. So I could give you example. I'm sure there is some kind of equivalent of those. I know some people don't like that. I know people like sometimes paper a lot. For me, paper, I honestly really like paper, but I always forgot to bring my notes with me, and I was traveling a lot, so it was not working well. So that's why I've moved digital. So in the note area, honestly, I love OneNote because it's synchronized between all my devices, my phone, my laptop, my PC. I could share stuff. I could put images, link. I have a page every day with the date, and I have my 3 little square, and then everything for that day go on that page. Every note, every important URL. I'm doing a demo, I'm putting the password there. Everything go there, like, you know, random password, not real password, but password for demos. I put everything there. So it's really easy, and I could search back into it. I know a lot of people around me are using Notion. It's really nice. It's Markdown based. It's online. I'm all already in OneNote, so that's why I'm using OneNote. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Then on the time tracking things, I really like toggles. I used for a long time Grindstone time tracker. What I really like about those application is, again, they are cross-platform. Toggle can go on your phone, multi-platform. So even when you switch, it will continue to track. There's some integration with Jira, for example. And the thing I really like about that, so you enter all your project or your task, and when you start working on a task, it go in the background and, you know, can't track your time, right? That's the app. But then maybe a client is calling you. So you take your phone talking to the client, and you got distracted. And when you get back to your computer, then the app will tell you, hey, are you still working on task A? And if you say no, then we'll say, okay, what you're working on, task B. And so, okay, so it will take the time from when you detect you're not touching at your computer until now, and put that on task B. And then you could continue working on maybe task B because that's a priority, that was a fire and you need to take care of that, or maybe it was task A. So like it really help to, you know, like fix those little situation when it happened. And at the end of the day, you have a bunch of reports, and you could, you know, see that, oh, right, the task that I was thinking was supposed to be taking only 2 hours. I've been working on that for the full day. So I need to adjust. So you could have a bunch of reports. So really cool. I still use that a lot, even if I don't have to follow timesheet. It helps me to, you know, where I put my times. And then I have the Microsoft To-Dos or Todoist or whatever, like to-do things. I use that a lot. Right now, it's so easy right from the emails. You could say, oh, this is important. I want to do this. You highlight, right click, boom, you create a to-do. So very nice. Again, synchronized between many different devices. So that's always cool, I think, because right now we are always moving and it's changing device. So this is what always cool. And when we think about a little bit more project, I work a lot in GitHub. I have a lot of stream, different open source project and things like that. There's Trello that is really nice with that. You can have some kind of Kanban board where you have different columns and you have tasks. You could do it also with Post-it and a white wall, but I prefer my white wall white. So that's why I'm using application. Honestly, for me, what works well is Gitkraken boards. There's other application also. It just really helps me to see, okay, I'm doing this, you move that. And the in process, when you could move it to, okay, I'm waiting for someone else to give me some information. So you move depending on the status. The beauty of Gitkraken, it's synchronized with Git or GitHub. So that's why for me, it's really helpful because all my works is synchronized, but you could have completely personal one. I have one that is just for my personal life. My wife kept asking me to do things and I put that in my Gitkraken board and okay, I'm working on that thing forever, but it's obvious what I'm planning to do. So some tools that really helps, but then you need to have an habit to use them and keep track of it. Last thing is, it's not something that you accomplish. It's not something that, yep, I'm done, now I am productive, I could quit, like nothing else to learn. No, it's not true. It's a journey, and you need to enjoy that journey. So I've given you some tips. Maybe tomorrow, say, you know what, I will try that app to take notes or to, that board stuff. That's great. Just don't try to make everything in one day. Give you times. Try one thing. Maybe you want to wake up earlier. That's fine, but don't try to wake up 3 hours earlier because it won't work. Maybe you could try 15 minutes for a few days and then like 15 more earlier and go like this. So baby steps, it's a journey, it's never ending, and keep trying to improve. I hope those little tips will help you. And if you have questions, again, I will stay in the chat to answer them, or you can always find me online. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Wait for it. I'm gonna, wait for it. Yay! Everyone's cheering for you. Just to kind of bridge that silence, right? There were a few questions in the chat. If you wanted to take maybe 2 minutes, answer some, and then maybe continue answering the rest through chat. Does that work for you, Frank?
Yes.
All right.
So Toggle works great. Okay, that's cool.
Some people were commenting, you have some great Twitch videos. Some of them liked your URL shortener video.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Someone was asking, I don't know if you have the answer, any of the presenters maybe can answer this, but someone mentioned Basecamp. They were wondering if folks were using that. I've seen some folks use that, but I don't know, maybe you have a better idea?
Basecamp? No, I know the thing. I know I try it or look at it long time ago, but not recently. I know also a lot of people are using, I use that for a different project. They're Azure DevOps. They're a bunch of Kanban board there with tasks and stuff like that. That's also very useful. I didn't mention it. It just popped in my mind now, but it's also very cool. Like I said, there's plenty of different solution. One, you just need to pick one that suits you well.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Nice. I'm not sure if there were other ones. There's been a lot of chatter, which is amazing. Keep the questions and the chatter coming, folks. But
and if you
hopefully,
if it pops in the mind of anyone, you can always reach out and let me know. I will try them. Like I said, it's a journey, so I'm always trying to get better at that.
I think someone asked for your Twitch, so I'll have to I'll add that to the chat or to the repo what your Twitch is, so folks can find you. That works for you.
Yep.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again, Frank. Let me try sharing my screen again. Let's see what happens. All right, I think I'm sharing my screen. Perfect. All right, so actually we have a special guest on the call with us, actually. So if you're following in the chat, you will have seen, and we had some folks asking us if Brendan Birds was actually on the call. So yes, Brendan is actually on the call with us. So Brendan, if you want to come off mute, if you want to say some hellos, and we can maybe ask some questions out loud. All right, yeah.
Absolutely. Hey there. How's it going?
Good. We're good.
Great to be here. Sorry I was a little late.
No worries.
Back to back meetings and whatnot, you know. I think the downside of the whole virtual conference thing is that normally I would just clear my whole calendar, right? And just go to build and just hang out at build, and, you know, do but like the downside of video conference is that my admin can schedule me, right? even when I'm at a conference. So sorry I was late.
No worries. So for those who don't know, Brendan is the CVP of Azure OSS and DevOps and Kubernetes co-founder. So like you said, he's happy to answer any questions you may have. Brendan, did you want to answer them in the chat, or did you want to do them over speaking?
I'm happy to do them speaking.
All right, let's see what questions we have. We definitely have a lot, so let me just kind of go through. Let's see, we are looking at AKS and RKE on Azure right now. We love the things in AKS, but the flexibility on RKE, also using Rancher instead of Arc, would be great to have your insights on roadmap on your side.
Sure, I'd love to know more about like what flexibility that Rancher you're seeing in Rancher. I mean, obviously it's cross-cloud in a way, but I think that with Arc, we're trying to deliver the same kind of cross-cloud capabilities. And we just made Arc public preview today, so you can actually give it a try. It was in private preview before, so if you've been waiting to try Arc for Kubernetes, that's a great thing to try out. But I'm obviously love to hear more about specifically, you know, any specific things that you see in Rancher that you don't see in AKS. I think in general with AKS, what we've been trying to do a lot of is get some of the enterprise grade features that are really required. Things like private link to private networks and things like that to really ensure that we can serve, you know, people from financial services industries and governments and things like that. Especially in COVID-19, healthcare governments have been a big deal. So.
All right, so Carol, if you wanted to add anything to that, feel free to add in the chat, but I'm going to keep going then. So someone else asked, what resources would you recommend for anyone that wants to start getting into DevOps?
I mean, there's a bunch of really great books out there. You know, I think it depends on whether you want to get into like more what I would call traditional DevOps with virtual machines, in which case, you know, or DevOps as a philosophy, maybe. There's a great book called Effective DevOps that was written by some cloud developer advocate at Azure named Jennifer Davis. It's an O'Reilly book, and it's actually available for free up on the Azure website. So if you search for Effective DevOps, that's a great kind of high-level DevOps book, and as I said, downloadable from Azure. If you're looking at Kubernetes specifically, there's a Kubernetes learning path that Azure has that helps orient you to Kubernetes, and also a book that I wrote with a couple other folks, Kelsey Hightower and Joe Beta, called Kubernetes Up and Running. And that is also actually available for free on the Azure website. So it's the second edition, actually. So it's a relatively up-to-date version. Kubernetes keeps changing, but it's a relatively up-to-date version. And then the other thing I always like to point out is like there's a ton of meetups around. Like there's DevOps Days. DevOps Days is a great kind of local conference series, and it's available in a lot of different cities. Obviously, going virtual these days, but getting in touch with your local community is also a really great way to learn more about what people are doing and hear about how different people in your community are approaching it. So that's what I would do anyway.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Brendan. I don't think I see any other questions. Darsha, correct me if I'm wrong, from anyone right now for you. Potentially more come up.
Sure.
Let's see if there's anything else you want to add, though, or have there been any exciting announcements at this build that you maybe want to highlight? Any sessions that maybe recommend folks go into, or just how's your build going for you this year?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I'm really excited to see Arc for Kubernetes go public preview, because obviously private preview is good for testing things, but you don't get a ton of customers in there. And so public preview really kind of opens the floodgates for people to kick the tires and see what it's like. So we're really excited about that. Big achievement for the team. I also run the Azure Resource Manager team that focuses on like Azure templates and that sort of stuff. And they had a really great session yesterday talking about some of the new capabilities in Azure Resource Manager, and then also last night a session about some of the thoughts that we're thinking about in terms of a new language for specifying resources, because I think the space of the languages to describe to do infrastructure as code, it's still an evolving space. It's still a space that needs a lot of work, and so we're going to take we're taking another approach and taking a try out in the community about how we can define a new language for infrastructure as code. So that was cool to see it. It was kind of a sneak peek, honestly. We're still very much in development, but seeking feedback from people as well. So that was really awesome to have that go out too. So yeah, it's been good so far. I do miss being there in person, especially because it's a hometown conference. I always like Build. Like Build is one of my favorite because I don't have to go anywhere. I just go downtown. So Build is a favorite conference for me. So I'm sad to not be down there. But on the other hand, I get to be on the couch next to my cat. So it works out.
So it's a win. That's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I think we're super lucky to have you as part of the session. I think so. We're all happy on this call. So thank you so much.
Yep.
If you're sticking around for a little bit, I'll try to ping if there's any other questions for you.
Absolutely. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I should be around for 15, 20 more minutes, and I'll keep an eye on the chat if there are any other questions. So
perfect. All right. Thanks again, Brendan. So I am gonna try sharing my screen again, and we're gonna continue with some even more awesome presentations that are going on, but I know you're all dying to know what the answer to my question was, which was, what do you call a computer superhero? And some of you got it, so good for you, but it is a screensaver. Wait for it. I know you all love it. Okay, perfect. So I know you're all still there. Maybe do another little stretch. Let's keep it going. But there we just had Frank. So now we're moving on to our Tech for Good section. These talks I'm super excited for. So I'm going to introduce Richard Campbell, who's a Microsoft MVP. I'll let him kind of introduce himself, but he'll be talking about the humanitarian toolbox. So building an open source software to help during a crisis. So thank you, Richard, for joining us. If you want to go ahead and try to share your screen there. And in the meantime, I will ask another little fun riddle. I'll stop sharing my video because that's okay. Let's see, what's the next good one I have? How is the internet like your front yard? Okay, find out after this talk. Richard, please take it away. Oh, Richard, I think you're on mute. Let me unmute you.
There we go. How's that?
There you go. That's perfect.
Thanks so much, Kim. Yeah, appreciate being a part of this and happy to talk a bit about Humanitarian Toolbox. It's been a passion of mine for years, and we continue to evolve. Of course, we're hanging out on Twitter, so you can always talk to us there as well. The real concept behind Humanitarian Toolbox is that we have a superpower, us as software developers, and we want to apply that superpower for the forces of good. And especially with the state of the world right now, it's been more apparent than ever that we can help a lot of people in a lot of different ways. using software. This really was brought to me, my focus, way back in 2005 during the Katrina disaster. And that was a time, I mean, if you think about it, that's before the cloud really was a thing. And still, as developers, we got together and we built software to help organize the response for Katrina. One of my favorite aspects of that, of a project that was built really, really quickly in a matter of weeks, was a pet finder. So this was just where relief workers were going into the areas around New Orleans, and they're finding pets that had been abandoned or had escaped but somehow survived the storm. And they were taking those pictures of the animals and putting them into putting the animals into shelters, and then folks could find their pet through those pictures and be able to pull them in and reconnect the family members with their pets. And that's an awesome piece of software, you know, not incredibly complicated, and yet it was a challenge to get it up and running under those circumstances. You know, the cell networks weren't as strong as they could have been during the hurricane, but they were still good enough. Phones were good enough that they were able to take pictures and then sync them back. But the apps were built so rapidly, and they were basically on repurposed hardware. And so the side effect of that is once Katrina wound down, once most of those pets were reunited with their families, the software was actually lost, and it ended up being recreated more than once. I met a fellow who built 3 versions of pet finders for 3 different disasters. So, you know, it's not enough that we build software. We actually want our software to be sustainable, that we want to be able to improve it and continue to operate it, that it just doesn't exist for that one little sprint, that it can sustain over a longer period of time. And a key part of that in my mind is making all that software open source so that it lives in a repository like GitHub and that you can actually count on it to be around. Now, since Katrina, of course, the cloud has become a thing and certainly is a new way to work. And it means that we can, during disasters, harness incredible amounts of computing power pretty much on demand. The bigger part of that, of course, is the evolution in mobile devices, that we have a diversity of devices that can be carried into emergency situations and that virtually everyone has, so that we can, between the cloud and mobile devices, work collectively. So back in 2012, as part of one of the tours I did with .NET Rocks, we launched Humanitarian Toolbox. And here was the thinking. Lots of software developers and lots of technology people want to contribute their abilities. They want to take that superpower they have and put it out into the world, maybe write some code, help support applications that can help people when they need help. But if you've got experience building those things, you know perfectly well that no software is free. It doesn't matter that you give away your time. When you build a piece of software, it comes with a set of obligations. Software is free the same way that a puppy is free. You may get the puppy for free, but it costs you. And so the point of Humanitarian Toolbox was to make sure that those volunteer coding efforts, those volunteer creation efforts, are never wasted, that there is a place for those projects to live that allows them to be sustained from one event to the next, so that when they're needed again, the toolbox is ready to roll them out and to help people work on them and to help them grow and sustain from one time to the next. Now, I know a fair bit about building software, and I've spent quite a bit of time in the community, but I only know so much about disaster response. And we really latched on to disaster response because it's an international thing. Disasters strike everywhere in the world. Everyone needs help everywhere, just like there's developers and creators everywhere. And so as I learned more about how disaster response workers work, I learned this very core concept, and it was the goal is outcomes, not outputs. So it's not enough to just make a piece of software that does something, but that it actually affects the outcome. One of the exemplars of that, folks that I dealt with, was Doctors Without Borders, and they are the kind of people who are experts in providing medical care anywhere in the world on demand. They literally have portable hospitals and resources so that they can go into a disaster site, set up, provide treatment, and move out. And as a consequence, you know, they're very skilled in that one particular area. They tend to be focused on that vertical. Technology is not necessarily their strength. So we're the people as technology folks that would be on the ground in these situations like the doctors would be. We can support them in ways that are very challenging, that we couldn't do otherwise. During Hurricane Sandy, which was right around the time that we were doing work with the beginning of Humanitarian Toolbox, we saw these need for composite teams. So this particular group of folks was going and searching homes after the hurricane. And you found that there was city folks, there were engineers, there were medical folks, all come together into these composite teams so that they could move around. Now, the problem is that each of those people come from different organizations. You know, in the old days of disaster response, in the old days being 20 years ago, there may have been 3 or 4 organizations that were responded. By Hurricane Sandy, 200 organizations would respond. And so organizing them became an incredible challenge. And we saw these command centers being built in tents, in location, with tremendous amounts of paper. Although this particular screenshot is from the Fukushima disaster. So that's why if you look closely, it's mostly in Japanese. But this is the sort of thing you'd see again and again, trying to coordinate in a command center between all of these different teams. So one of the projects that we started developing early on involved organizing that. So creating places where volunteers could contribute their skill set and information into a project we ended up calling Already. Now, Already was applied to a lot of different environments, disaster response being one of them, but one of the most popular features was a simpler one, which was working with the Red Cross to install smoke detectors in homes that need them. Now, a smoke detector is an inexpensive device, and often we don't maintain them, and if they don't work when they're needed, they're pretty useless and people die. And so the Red Cross has an initiative where they put smoke detectors into homes where they need them. Now, the only tricky part about a smoke detector is putting it in the right place, and that takes a qualified installer. Someone who knows where smoke detectors are supposed to be in the house and can actually mount it safely and appropriately. And you don't want to waste those volunteers' time. And so ultimately, Already's job is to allow you to organize people in need, in this case, folks that need smoke detectors, and then organize the skilled volunteers to go to the places where they are needed. So we would run scenarios where in a given neighborhood, we would campaign on Facebook and from tables in Home Depots and collect addresses of homes that needed smoke detectors, and then be able to get those volunteers out to put those smoke detectors in. Now, if you did this manually on paper, completely achievable goal, it takes several weeks to get everything organized, sometimes months, and often people forget it. So your install rate ends up being pretty low. You may send a half a dozen smoke detectors to an installer to put in a day, and they only get 2 installed. By throwing in the cloud and mobile apps and some technology around Already, we were able to shorten that cycle up to the point where they would get 4 or 5 out of the 6 installed. We were able to ping homes in advance to say the installer is coming today, you know, just the way the cable company does it. So Already's been a great success for us, and it's been a project that's still ongoing. In fact, right now there's an initiative to repurpose it for food banks during the COVID-19 crisis, because the food banks are under more pressure than ever before, and this ability to coordinate volunteers is really an effective tool for that. And by the way, this project is on GitHub. Our repository is github.com/htbox. You can contribute to it at any time. We've stuck with our open source goals here, so anybody can use the software they want, anybody can contribute if they want. Just understand that the way that we work projects here is that we have a plan. We are working with the response workers to be able to build the right thing. And so we create work items, issues for contribution. And so you can come to the project, look at what we're doing, put together a build for yourself if you like, and then look at the issues that are outstanding and say, I want to take that one on. My big news today is that we're lighting up a new project. And it went live on GitHub today, and it's called 2 Weeks Ready. Now, 2 Weeks Ready started out as an initiative primarily on the West Coast of North America. So California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, where we were focused on the issues around earthquakes and tsunamis. Now, every disaster is significant and challenging, but all of them have particular attributes. And the big thing with earthquakes is that you can have your city damaged for quite a significant period of time. 2 Weeks Ready is about getting you and your family and your community prepared to operate on your own for up to 2 weeks after a major event like an earthquake. And so that means food supplies, medical supplies, prescription medicines, all of the different things that your family would need if you needed to be on your own for 2 weeks during a major event. And so the idea of the application was disaster preparedness, that we use the mobile app to be able to organize all the things you would need, to provide you with a checklist that actually lets you check them off, that you could use the app to coordinate your entire family to have the same set of information, that the normal disaster response paths for earthquakes and for tsunamis can be preloaded on your phone. A tsunami is something that happens relatively rapidly, and in an emergency, to be notified that you need to move and get away from a tsunami zone, you need to be able to execute quickly. And odds are it's been caused by an earthquake. And so you have probably damaged infrastructure at the same time. So part of our goal with 2 weeks ready was to preload your phone. So you give us your location, we pull the local data from the local disaster response experts for what's the right evacuation path from your home to get out of a tsunami zone, and it's already on your phone. So when disaster strikes, your phone knows what to do, it can tell you which way to move. Now, this is a brand new application. We're primarily building it with progressive web app technology. And that way we're pretty agnostic to devices, works on a desktop or a PC, works in virtually any kind of phone, can be updated rapidly. I got prototype screens together just recently here, and I wanted to talk about a few of the pieces that we've got built here. First, you notice the family and friends section. So this is the idea that you can have all of the phones for a given family registered together. Typically, when you put together a disaster response plan, it's one of the parents that prepares it. Maybe it's mom. And so mom has all the contact information for the schools, workplace numbers, which neighbors to count on, where things can be found, and so forth, which is great. It's just that only mom's got that. So the fact that we can share that between all of the devices in the family automatically, and when it needs to be updated automatically, just saves everyone time that you have the right information when you need it. And that can be extended to a larger circle like a neighbor as well. The emergency kits, these are all the supplies you would need in 2 weeks ready. So that is your food, your water, batteries, radios, prescription meds, and so forth. And we see a big piece of this as maintaining expiry dates so that you're routinely reminded of the last time you put those supplies in, and maybe can consume that food before it goes bad and replace it with fresh, and in general, maintain your kit. It's not enough to build it once. Stuff needs to be replaced routinely. The hazard hunt is a kind of a fun piece of the app, but an important piece, which is what are the things in your home that you need to check on in a disaster. For example, if you have natural gas service coming to your home, where's the shutoff valve? Where's the water shutoff valve? Now, you know, mom may know where all those things are, but do you know where those things are? And do you know how to turn them off? And so being able to have that information consolidated and shared so that anybody who needs to turn it off can. We'll also be looking at, is there a way for us to provide that to a neighbor in a crisis so that they can do it for you if you need to. And all of this information is kind of specific to different scenarios and different environments. So we want to leave it very customizable. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we all have these issues around where we live and what resources we need for them, and we can keep them up to date. Now, we're in the early stages of 2 weeks ready. One of the pieces we're working hard on right now is with the USGS service. So USGS has a product now called Shake Alert, where they can send out a message saying there's an earthquake in your area. Now, they need a front-end service for that, and we're helping to build that for 2 weeks ready so that when you register with the app, it can actually take the early warning information coming from USGS. And typically with an earthquake warning, we're talking only a few seconds. But those few seconds can make a difference in your life, that you can get an earthquake warning and can put yourself in a position inside of your home, either roll off the bed, move somewhere structurally safe so that if and when the earthquake hits, you're safe. And then you can get to work on dealing with the overall response. So this is the model for 2 weeks ready, and it's what we're currently working on. Like I said, the project is still in the early stages. It is up on GitHub right now. Our first work items are in place. We're planning on building out this application over time. Now, obviously, the current circumstance of the COVID-19 pandemic have shifted our focus somewhat. So we see a need for pandemic resources as much as we need resources around earthquakes, tsunamis, and other disasters. And often in that case, as with any disaster, it's good information. Depending on where you are in the world, there are multiple information sources you're probably paying attention to. Your city might have some resources. Your local region, say your county, your state or your province, and federally. each of those represent sources of information, and often we can't sort them all out. So one of the goals in the application is that we provide geolocation information to make sure you're getting the best source of information available. So if your county is choosing to stand up drive-through testing stations, you would get notified because you live in that county, because the app has already sorted that information out for you. If it's done at a city level, you can get it that way as well. So there's a lot of different challenges here when we're dealing with both disaster preparedness and disaster response to make sure we're getting you good information and that we're organizing it properly. And I'm watching right now one of the folks that we've been working with on this project, who's a disaster response professional, is deeply concerned about these new disasters occurring, the disasters like earthquakes during the pandemic. This crisis is actually happening right now in Bangladesh and India, where a cyclone is landing today during the pandemic. And so you may know what to do in case of cyclone, but do you know what to do in case of cyclone during a pandemic? And so there's new sets of rules, new additional challenges for maintaining social separation, keeping people safe, while also responding to disaster. And so even with all the preparedness we may have done over the years, in this particular time, a lot of that behavior is revised. And disaster response professionals have been working on this problem for some time. So we want to make sure that information is available to everybody that can possibly do it. And we're a long way from finished with this application. There's many more things that we need to build, but we're very excited with what's happened so far and excited to have more people involved. That's why we've opened it up. This will be built by volunteers, volunteer developers, maybe one just like you. We do have project coordinators that are organized in this. Humanitarian Toolbox is a charity. We're a 501c3 for those who care about numbers. That makes us a U.S. registered charity, and you can donate to us. It's tax deductible, and your employer will match, or may match, depending on the services they provide. There are different rules in different countries for all of that. If you want to get more involved, htbox.org is our website. You can also go to humanitariantoolbox.net if you can spell humanitarian. These are big, complicated times, and it's an elaborate project. We have been building software for a long time with it. Many different contributors. Over the years, as we've built things, we've often done them collectively at conferences and other events. We recognize today that that's not a model we can do anymore. And so one of the folks that we're working with early on are involved with live streaming. So you can look for us in the next few weeks to put together a live stream for developing on 2 Weeks Ready. And that will be able to watch coders going on, take a look at the HTBox projects, see what contributions are going on. We'll probably process pull requests live and see how much of this we can get built in the least amount of time. I'm very keen by the fall, there will be new earthquake tests, shake alert tests, and we'd like to have the app ready so that folks can actually be a part of those tests and we can show the possibilities of the cloud and mobile to help save lives. If you want to know more, visit us at htbox.org. You can check out our GitHub repository, find me on Twitter. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, thank you, Richard. You heard the clapping, right?
I did. That's awesome.
Okay, perfect. There were some questions that we did want to ask, and we have some time, which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
So sorry if you already mentioned it, but you said the project is open to volunteers. Do you only need devs, or are there other opportunities as well?
Devs, certainly there's lots of code to write. There's always design need. You know, you can always tell when an app was built by devs because it looks like it. So lots of need for design. Testers. When we were in the heyday of Already, when we were building a lot of code, this is a pretty mature project now. We were putting on codeathons where all sorts of folks were coming in and just taking the app out for a spin. So as you see 2 Weeks Ready start to evolve, I expect we're going to need more and more diverse of people. So it helps if you already have a GitHub account and you're not surprised by that to go look on the code side. But as the live streams come up, if you're following us on HTBox or following me on Twitter, we'll start doing live events around those tests. And the nice thing about a progressive web app is there's no install footprint. We'll literally just provide a link to the site and it'll come up on your phone or on your PC. You could take it out for a spin and we'll take your feedback. So There's lots of ways to contribute to these projects. As we do more live events, you'll see the project appear.
Okay, awesome. And there was one question that was asking, are you using AI component in this app? How does this app deal with network issues during crisis?
Great question. And we have not focused on AI technology yet because we're still very much in the fundamentals of the architecture, so there's not a whole lot of need there. We have always been very bandwidth sensitive. So interesting reality about cell networks especially is while they never fully function in the good days, they also don't fully fail in the bad days. And so part of our planning is to lean on the lightest parts of the network. So for example, the shake alert notification will probably go over SMS because even when almost nothing else works on cell nets, SMS still functions. And so part of the design of 2 Weeks Ready is to preload that important information that you're not only preparing your home, but you're also preparing your phone so that you have that data already in place so that when that trigger goes out, that shake alert goes out, says there's an earthquake in your area, it doesn't consume a lot of bandwidth. You don't have to depend on a lot of bandwidth. The information's already on your phone. So the network will take a hit. It always does. And it always recovers over time. But you're not going to need bandwidth right at that moment of that crisis. That's part of the design of the application.
Okay, awesome. And someone mentioned, I've got some design ideas, looking forward to providing more there. So that's cool.
Happy, please engage with us. We like to talk stuff through. You know, part of the conversation around work items is that it helps build a documentation trail of the thinking for the application. It's all open source. We take multiple contributors, but we also want to not tie you down as a volunteer. If you can only volunteer a couple of times, that's fine. I can give you work that you can work on, and the way you talk to us first to work through that will allow somebody else to pick up your work and continue it.
Awesome. And someone also said, you rock, Richard, smiley face. So
thanks.
Awesome.
This is one of my favorite projects in the world. We've been spending a lot of time trying to get this right, and we hope to make a dent in the universe here. Like maybe we can save some lives. We realize that the way we're architecting this now, it doesn't matter what disaster could be befalling anywhere, this app should be able to help. We should be able to do cyclone preparedness, tornado preparedness, and all kinds of different events.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, but if you want to keep an eye on the chat in case anyone adds anything else. But thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
And I'll stick around here, Kim. Thanks for making me a part of this.
All right, so I'm gonna reshare my screen, I think, and see what happens. All right, yeah, so just to follow up on the joke that I did before, it wasn't very good though. How is the internet like your front yard? The answer is you have to modem both. Yeah, that wasn't that good. I'm sorry. Okay, so moving along. Thanks again, Richard. So now I'm super excited to welcome. Oops, I went too far. Let me go back. There we go. Super excited to welcome Karen McCall for us talking about taking your first steps towards inclusive design for people with disabilities. And so, Karen, if you want to try sharing your screen, and then I can share it with the folks. It'll be good. And then in the meantime, I have another joke, riddle, however you call it. This one I like a little bit better. So this one is, what do you get when you cross a dog and a computer? So I'm gonna enjoy delivering that answer later. Let's see, Karen, I don't still see my screen, which is, you know, it's a decent screen, but not what I want to be sharing. Oh, yes, I think it's coming through now. All right, I think, yeah, the folks can see your screen. So if you want to take it away, I will unmute you. Oh, I don't know if that worked. No, I think you're still on mute. Sorry, folks. Just a moment. There we go.
How's that?
Yeah, perfect. We hear you loud and clear.
Great. My focus, I have been working in the field of disability advocacy and accessible content design for about 20 years, and I've been an MVP for Office apps and services since 2009. So every time I talk to someone, it is with inclusion in mind, because I do have a disability, and part of the reason that I do this kind of work is selfish. I really love technology and I want to be able to use it. When you talk about the 2 weeks ready, I will volunteer to test it to make sure that it's accessible for people with disabilities, because it's one of the things that I'm finding with the whole pandemic is that there is a lot of things that simply are not accessible to me. Information, online ordering for groceries. One of the pieces of dark humor that those of us with disabilities have is that by self-isolating, we may not get the virus, but we'll die of starvation because we can't order anything online. Most of the portals are not accessible. So I'm here to talk about some of the first steps that developers can take toward inclusion. There are two areas that I've focused on in the last couple of years. One is making sure that when we talk about the Internet of Things, we talk about the Internet of everyone. So making sure that those things are accessible to those of us with disabilities. And a disability can be anything from a physical disability to a visual disability, learning, cognitive, or print disabilities. The other thing that I have been advocating for since 2009, actually, is the need for a global inclusive education standard. So what that means is, based on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, that we do have a baseline for what inclusive education is. And the component I'm interested in is making sure that people with disabilities around the globe have equal access to education, which then leads to equal access to employment, independence, civic participation, and our ability to lead our own lives. So the first thing that, the first thing that developers can do is to talk with us. And this starts at the beginning. When you have an idea for something, talk to us. We do like to drink and eat. So although some of the pubs are closed, we can do that virtually, and some friends and I meet on Tuesday nights and just brainstorm and get together. So we don't have to be on site, but when you have an idea for something, when you find a need for something, get a group of us together who have disabilities and talk to us about what we can contribute to that project, how you can make that project more inclusive. For example, you'll see it at the end, but in talking about the artificial intelligence and the light bulb and the smartphone app needs to be accessible for those of us with disabilities, or we can't turn that light bulb on. When we go to a hotel and we see the displays on the wall now that are not dials or not buttons, we don't have any way of adjusting the thermostat in our room independently if we are blind or visually disabled. If we do have a visual disability and do use hand magnifiers, sometimes the lights from the hand magnifiers will cause the fonts to disappear, so we can't read even if we can get close to them. So there are a lot of components to talk to us about when you're developing something. And we can contribute through the prototype, through the end user testing, and give you support in terms of marketing your product, because you're making sure that that product is accessible to a broader consumer base. There is a lot of legislation, not only in Canada, but internationally, where people are now looking at employees that can demonstrate that they can create accessible digital environments. So that's something else to consider. At the very base of what you're looking at in terms of any kind of app is a Unicode font. And this slide has an image of what a non-Unicode font would look like when it's magnified. So imagine that someone has a visual disability, is using 2 or 3 times magnification, which isn't a lot. Some people use 32 times magnification. And this is how they see text. It's very pixelated. You can hardly recognize the characters. It's going to take a long time to read. When we think of adaptive technology, we have to think of the different types of technology that people with disabilities use. For example, people who are blind or visually disabled may use screen reading. There is text-to-speech tools, which are used by people with learning, cognitive, or print disabilities. And the difference between screen reading and text-to-speech is that a screen reader will read everything on the screen. So someone who is totally blind and proficient at using their screen reader can install Windows and configure a computer without a monitor or a mouse. So if you think of the things that you're developing and the things that you're working on and how people are going to access that thing without using a monitor or a mouse, you have a very good baseline in terms of developing for inclusion. You also have people who use speech recognition and alternate input devices, such as, and I'll show you some of those in a moment. Sometimes we need more than one technology, and I have always been someone who chooses a tool for a task or a tool for an environment. So adaptive technology, although it may have started out for those of us with disabilities, a lot of it is now mainstream, like the speech recognition, like having your smartphone read an email to you, or being in the car and having text messages read to you. So the adaptive technology is being integrated into some of the tools that we use, but it's not being integrated thinking of those of us who depend on it. For example, looking at the car, I as a passenger may want to choose the music. So I need the ability to interface with or use the car console, whether it's Apple Play or I don't know any other one. I need to be able to interact with that and say, this is what I want, go to this song. I need to also be able to operate the map and the guidance system so that the driver is free to concentrate on the road instead of trying to multitask. So having things made to be inclusive is not only for those of us with disabilities, but it allows us to participate as an equal in any activity that we are involved with other people. Here are some examples of alternate input devices. On the upper left is someone using a sip and puff. So the computer is being used by sipping and puffing. An on-screen keyboard is being used. So think of the things that you're working on now and how someone who would be using either a sip and puff or a head mouse may interact with it. If someone has cerebral palsy or tremors, they may be using a trackball, which is on the upper right. If someone has a developmental disability or a cognitive disability, they may be using an alternate keyboard. And what I'm showing on the bottom here is an IntelliKeys that has been designed for someone with a cognitive disability. The sheets are placed in the device so that they can be used for specific applications. So if someone is using the internet, they would have an internet user interface. If someone is using a word processor, that would be taken out, and another sheet with specific keyboard commands or buttons for working with a word processor would be put in. If you think of people with visual disabilities, then I mentioned, I think, that I have a visual disability. None of these are my visual disability, by the way. We don't often have any idea of what that might mean. So I had some images created with a graphic designer friend of mine. And if you have macular degeneration, you primarily have peripheral vision, but not a lot of central vision. If you have glaucoma, you have the reverse. You have central vision, but not a lot of peripheral vision. So when we look at making fonts larger or smaller, making icons larger or smaller, buttons larger or smaller, we have to take into consideration that someone may have tunnel vision, but someone may have peripheral vision. But if we look at someone who has cataracts, everything is blurry. If we look at someone who has diabetic retinopathy, random pieces of their visual field is missing. So how do we begin to think of designing for these types of visual disabilities? In my particular visual disability, it's like looking through a camera lens that I can never get in focus. So I can see the trees across the river, but I can't see the leaves, I can't see the trunks. I can see a plane in the sky if the light is shining on it in just the right way, but I can't see any of the details. So how do we begin to design and begin to consider people with disabilities? And the answer is to talk to us. It goes back to talking to us. If someone has dyslexia, this was a discussion that was on Twitter when we were talking about visual disability and inclusion and inclusive education. And someone was getting frustrated because it's very hard to explain, even with visual disability, what you are seeing and how you access text. So at Dyslexia and Me decided that they would create a sample of how print looks to them. So on the left, you have what someone who doesn't have dyslexia would see in terms of text. And on the right, this is what the person at Dyslexia and Me sees when they look at text. It's not clear, it's not crisp. For people with learning disabilities or some types of dyslexia, the letters can shift, the letters can be inverted, pieces of the letters are missing. So all of these things are elements of accessing digital content that people with disabilities can encounter. If you have any knowledge of accessible or inclusive design, it's very important that you share that knowledge. You gain the knowledge by talking with us. There are a lot of really good books on inclusive design, on end user testing, and the development cycle. I don't happen to have the names of any of them handy, I apologize. But mentor someone, because companies are now looking for people who have experience or have a knowledge of accessible and inclusive design. Mentor someone who is in school. If you are teaching, if you are providing training, even if you're giving talks on build and you're talking about products that you are working on or that you're thinking of, include those of us with disabilities. Include the idea that it needs to be accessible for those of us who have different needs and disabilities. So in moving forward, it's a partnership between those of us with disabilities and those of you who are developing and creating the Internet of Things, and hopefully it will be the Internet of everyone. I typically like to send people to Corning's A Day Made of Glass and tell them to think about how to make that accessible. On this slide, I have a coffee maker that I had for about 2 years, and it has one of those digital displays. The digital display is blue. It does have some dark gray lettering on it, but the place where the K-cup went it sticks out, and I could never get my magnifying glass close enough to that silly display to change the default settings, and I was stuck with the smallest or medium sized cup of coffee for the whole time that I owned that. I could never tell what the time was. I could never set the timer to have the coffee go off in the morning and be ready for me. I never knew when I had to clean the silly thing. I finally found a Keurig that has buttons, and now I can choose which size coffee I want in the morning. I know when I'm out of water, and it's a lot easier to use. But I should be able, as a person with a visual disability, or as someone who is blind, as someone who does have a learning cognitive or print disability, to be able to use the same devices and the same smart things that everybody else does right out of the box. I do teach at Mohawk College in the Accessible Media Production course, and the first assignment that I have my students do is to choose a partner, because safety comes first. And I do have a Ontario customer service with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act training booklet, where I identify some activities. So my student and a partner have to perform one of those activities. Most people will choose making a peanut butter sandwich blindfolded, and most people think that's really easy. In fact, one of my students said it was the silliest assignment they had ever had to do, because I also make them write a reflective paper about their experiences. Some people laugh through the experience, some people get frustrated and cry through the experience, but their reflections show that they do learn and they do start to think differently. So one of the things I would like to leave you with is to choose a partner and blindfold yourself and make a peanut butter sandwich. Start at your kitchen door, go and find all the components for your sandwich. It doesn't have to be peanut butter if you have an allergy, but make your sandwich. You will have that safety net of the person with you who will prevent you from cutting yourself. And then take that information and apply it to the things that you develop, to the work that you do, and help me create a more inclusive community. If you do have any questions or you want to learn more about adaptive technology or how it works, you can contact me and I will be happy to talk to you. Kim, if you could ask any of the questions that showed up in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Can you hear me?
Kim, you might need to come a little closer to the mic. You sound a little far away.
Oh, my bad. Hello, folks. Can you hear me now? Oh, okay, sorry about that. Karen, can you still hear me? Let's see what the questions were. We definitely had some questions. So one of the first ones that popped up was, have you ever worked on an input interface with physical disability?
No. I should qualify that. I worked on a haptic project where it was originally designed for people who worked in the medical field, and it was supposed to be a glove that someone could put on, and the haptic experience would be similar to that of someone who had arthritis, so that people who were learning to be medical professionals would have an idea when people complained about aches and pains in their hands, what it felt like to have arthritis. That morphed into a project where we were able to take a map of Southern Ontario, and as you moved a mouse across the map, you had haptic feedback as well as audio feedback as to whether you were on hills or mountains or going over water or into towns or larger towns, things like that. So not with physical disabilities in the sense of people who use wheelchairs, but in terms of haptic devices.
Okay, great. I think that definitely answers the question that they asked. So let's see. Someone asked, is there any organization that can connect developers with folks who have access issues?
there are lots of organizations in your community. If you have any trouble finding them, please again contact me and I would be able to help you. So if you're interested primarily in people with physical disabilities, if you're interested in people with learning disabilities, I would be able to direct you to the different types of organizations that would be able to help you.
Okay, great. Perfect. We'll make sure to link your information as well in the chat. I see it's on your slide, but I'll make sure to link it as well. That's great. There was another question, but I don't know, Karen, if you can answer this because it might be on the Microsoft side question, but they asked, what are some of the top projects that Microsoft Canada is invested in at this point? And then there was a second part to that question, but I'm not sure if you would have that as a...
I don't. I know there are 2 apps for iOS. There's the Seeing AI app, which is a great app for anybody. If you want to download it, it's free. And then in Canada, over the past 8 months, the Soundscape app is another one that's available, but I'm not sure if there's any Canadian connection to either one of those.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Because I linked, there was an English and a French article in the chat for Soundscape actually, so I linked it as one of them. So that's great. I'll also add the other one then. And yeah, because the second part of that question was, what is the primary focus in terms of dev tech stack based on the projects? But I think potentially in that article. Oh, thank you, Adarshi. You also linked the Seeing AI. Might be able to answer that person's question, and I'll dig a bit into it, and I'll add anything I find to the GitHub repo that I have for this session. So that is great. I'm just kind of going through the rest of the questions. Fun fact: the Xbox Accessibility Controller and the Microsoft Inclusive Technologies Lab were co-founded, invented by a Canadian, and they linked a URL to it. So that's just an FYI for folks if you want to check it out in the chat. And then someone wrote, a great presentation, Karen. So I think I captured all the questions. Let me just do another run through just in case. But otherwise, Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And thank you for your time and joining us. And let me play the clapping. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm gonna go ahead then and share my screen again. Let's see. Yes, I would like to share. So I will take back control. And how are folks feeling? Folks are still there. We still got people on the line. That's great. Let me share my video. Just a moment. Oh yeah, the question I asked before. Right. That's what I was so excited about. Okay, just a second. I had asked, what do you get when you cross a dog and a computer? Well, it's a machine that has a bark worse than its bite. That's so good. Okay, fantastic. All right, so moving along, amazing sessions. Thank you so much to the 4 presenters today. I am going to dive into some developer resources. So we'll be doing that right now. But again, if you join later, anything aka.ms build CA connection will have all the content and resources. I definitely need to update it. So I do apologize if not everything's there right away. But we will kind of dive into it. So we got some really cool stuff going on right now that you may or may not be aware of. So we've got the Cloud Skills Challenge Toolkit, boîte à outils du défi de compétences infonuagiques. So Adarshi, I don't know if you want to jump in here with me to kind of talk a little bit about what that is for folks if they're interested to know more.
Sure. Absolutely. So Cloud Skills Challenge is a 30-day sprint of learning on Microsoft Learn. And the way we do it is that you basically need to go get hold of all your colleagues within your organization and basically get together and say, we want to do Cloud Skills Challenge. We're going to set it for a start date. For example, we can start it from June 1st to June 30th, so 30 days. And then we're basically going to track all the points that you earn by doing modules on Microsoft Learn. And with every module that you do, you earn points. So we're basically creating a fun, competitive, gamified learning on Microsoft Learn. So definitely reach out to us and see if at all that makes sense for you guys. And we'll be more than happy to support you in your learning journey, make a little bit of fun, and have some fun incentives at the end of the 30 days too. So definitely reach out to us if at all you want to sign up for the Cloud Skills Challenge.
Yeah, and awesome. Thank you. And yeah, the URL is there, aka.ms/CSC Toolkit. C'est aussi accessible en français. Alors, n'hésitez pas de demander pour le challenge, le défi, en fait, en français. So I was just saying that the challenge is also available in French, so don't be shy to ask for the items available in French, like the content and everything in French. So, yep, head over to that URL. You'll get more information, but just kind of an FYI, really cool challenge. Definitely take advantage of it if you can. So let me just move to the next slide. So we got Microsoft.source. Amazing, one of my favorites. Very exciting. So that's actually a new newsletter that we got going monthly, specifically for developers, right? So it is gonna be code samples. It is gonna be podcasts, YouTube videos, you name it, right? Like really cool content made by probably our amazing cloud advocates, our Microsoft MVPs, and folks over at Microsoft, and just kind of part of our Microsoft ecosystem, giving you the details of what's new and how to really get started as well. So don't think that the content in there is just gonna be advanced stuff over your head. Don't be shy. It's also it'll be a mix of stuff. So don't worry if you're new to being a developer. We're all developers. So don't worry about that. C'est aussi accessible en français. So I'm just saying that it's also available in French. There's an English and a French version for Canadians. So if you head over to aka.ms/join the source, it'll redirect you based on your browser settings. So if it's in French, it'll do the French-ca in the URL to give you the French one. If not, if you want to get the English one, that's okay. You can change it to en-ca, and then you can sign up for the English version. So just know that they're both available. There'll be like events as well, so webinars coming up, some cool stuff like this, and then some items for our Learn platform, which I'll get into in a bit, so I won't spoil that. Don't see any questions, but feel free to ask some questions. I know this stuff is cool. Let's see here. Next slide. Microsoft Learn TV. Oh, new stuff. I think it's launching tomorrow. Frank or Anthony, I don't know if you wanted to maybe talk just a little quickly about it. Probably have better knowledge than I do. Feel free to come off mute if you want. No pressure, but.
Frank, you want me to take a crack at it?
I know a glimpse. I know my team will be like the team I'm in. I mean, I'll be talking. But I'm focusing a lot with my team and on Azure fundamentals. So we're planning to have a show there I think it's a bi-weekly, something like that. So it's a really nice place where you will be able to learn. Of course, it's Learn TV, so it will be always up, real like a real TV channel with a bunch of videos, instruction, and it will be interactive. Very nice place.
So the whole Learn TV initiative is an extension of what we've been doing on other platforms like Twitch and on YouTube in terms of streaming. So there'll be 24 hours worth of content that will always be either live or pre-recorded. It'll be addressing all time zones. So of course, all the time zones across Canada will be addressed in terms of content itself. It will be based on your feedback. So if there's something you'd like to see, there's an ample amount of shows that are out there. One of the shows that actually myself and Thomas Maurer from Europe actually produce is called AZ Update, which happens every Friday at 10 a.m. Once Learn TV goes live, actually episode number 6, which is scheduled for this Friday on YouTube, will also be shown on Learn TV as well. A lot of the content that will be created will be based on modules that are there inside of Microsoft Learn. And if you haven't taken advantage of Microsoft Learn, it's a great way to get hands-on with labs, and in some cases sandboxes, to actually demo out technology and services on Azure for free. So Learn TV will be an extension of that, as mentioned, 24-hour period in terms of content and based on what you want to see.
Awesome. Do you know, I don't know, do you know if it's going to be available in other languages?
So for the start, it will be available in English, and there will be some shows with subtitles in other languages. But in future, there will probably be a language-focused shows down the road.
Awesome, awesome. So I think there's a little launch going on tomorrow, 4 p.m. PT, I believe. So head over to that URL and check it out. I'm excited to see what this is, and very exciting. So just know that that's available for you all as well. So thank you, Anthony and Frank, for that awesome little tidbit. So I'll be going on to the next sweet resource. And we have the Azure Tech Communities. So it's the community-led meetups that you all are actually putting on in your cities and in your different regions. And so it's kind of like, you know, one-stop shop for all our Azure Tech meetups across the world. You know, so if you're in another city one day, you can leverage this kind of network to find out, hey, is there an Azure group in this city? Can I maybe go check them out the week that I'm here? So that's really cool. If you want to go look, there's I think about 8 or 9 going on in Canada right now, part of it, which is great. If you want your group to be a part of this network, please do shoot us an email, devca@microsoft.com. You know, the groups are welcome in English and French. We have a great meetup in Quebec City, actually, that's running their meetups on Teams and publishing their videos to YouTube. And there's 2 up there right now, so I highly suggest checking them out. Very cool stuff coming out there. If anyone wants to add anything in on those, please feel free to do so. Come off mute, don't be shy. But we're very excited to kind of have this network and just really highlight the stuff that you all are doing out there, amazing stuff, and how we can help amplify it, really, right? So good stuff. Right in the chat, actually, if you have a meetup group, and let's all share what our meetup groups are. I'd be excited to see. Yeah, let's move on. Next slide. All right, so this is a very special deal for our Canadians only during MS Build. So we have very special pricing for Surface, some select Surface products. So if you head over to the GitHub repo, that URL is in there because it's a very long URL. But if you go there and you are located in Canada, so like the shipping, I believe, would have to be within Canada. I think that's the restriction. You could take advantage of special pricing on select Surface products. So if you haven't seen the Surface Book 3 already out, do check it out. And just know that Scott Hanselman actually put up a video on trying to kind of, I guess, break the device. You should definitely go check it out. I'll link the URL later. Very awesome to see. Very powerful product coming out there. So, yay! Special Canadian offer. Awesome. I know you're all excited. Another cool thing, Mixed Reality Dev Days actually is coming up today and tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's tomorrow, and I think I might have gotten the dates wrong. I'll have to double check. But just know that this is really cool. It's all happening in Alt Space VR, which is really exciting because even if you don't have a VR headset, you can still experience it in 2D. So we have some experts coming together to give you some really cool sessions, all free, all online digital experience. So please do take advantage of that. Very exciting stuff. Lots of stuff I'm throwing at you. Hopefully, you know, if you can't grasp it all right now, that's okay, because it's all in that one-stop shop URL we have. So Microsoft Learn, amazing new platform. If you haven't heard of it, go check it out. That's also where the Microsoft Learn TV is gonna be. But that's really where you're going to have that hands-on interactive experience learning Microsoft. It's not just Microsoft products, it's really the Microsoft ecosystem. So you'll find also modules and learning paths on also like intro to Python and the Swagger API, which is really cool. Again, any of the presenters, if you want to come off and talk a little bit about it, feel free. But Microsoft Learn is very exciting for me because I get to see folks, you know, leveraging Azure and it sandboxes your account so you can spin up VMs and you're going through the tutorials and you don't need to have put in your credit card, you know, you don't need to risk spinning things up on your own own means. So definitely take a look, take advantage. We're always adding new courses as well. I think the last time I looked, it was not 1,200 courses. But yeah, Anthony, feel free to jump in here.
Actually, a huge advantage with Microsoft Learn is that it is something that it's community driven. So if you are looking at the hands-on labs and feel that the way that's being done in terms of steps is incorrect or can be done in a better way, you can actually put your suggestion in. It's actually based on top of GitHub that you can actually, go forward and push your ideas to be reviewed by Microsoft and actually be accredited for any changes that are made inside of the modules themselves.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's great. I knew they were always making updates to it, but that's amazing to hear.
Yeah, it's community driven. So the updates are not just by Microsoft. They're reviewed by us, but it is definitely community driven.
Amazing. Amazing. I'll make sure to highlight that next time I present and make sure to bring that up in the content resources for after this.
Right.
Awesome.
It's from the team page, you have a little icon, you go there. I fill it last week, that's why I know. And yeah, I found some translation that was not correct in French. And
Nice.
like, yep, right away it passed through. Super simple.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, that might be actually a good way for folks if you're interested in getting involved with open source, if it's all up there and you can put in that suggestion for a change. If it's that easy, go for it, right? Awesome. So I am going to go to the next one, but don't be shy to head over to Microsoft Learn while I'm talking. Why not? Let's do it, right? All right, so I'm going to invite Darsha back up to maybe talk about the amazing Data and AI Academy that we have.
Excellent. So guys, as you can see, the basic thing that we're trying to do is how can we help everyone in this community to learn and grow and really adopt that growth mindset, correct? And so based on that same theme, what we've also come up with, you saw these fantastic resources called Cloud Skills Challenge, which is essentially a good way and a fun way to, get your learning game up and going, right? So that's definitely there. So Cloud Skills Challenge, if you think about it, it's basically a wrapper around Microsoft Learn, which is the base of all our learning platforms. So in addition to all of that, we've also got some dollars, and we've actually had a partnership with this learning partner called Fastlane. We've come up with the Data and AI Academy. And through this Data and AI Academy, we actually have 3 certification vouchers. And these are all free certification vouchers that we are giving out. So you can get yourself Azure Data Scientist certified, Azure Data Engineer certified, and Azure AI Engineer certified. And all of these certifications you're getting for free. So if you go to that website, which is ak.ms/Data AI Academy, you'll see that, first of all, you can claim your certification vouchers. Second of all, in order for you to prepare, there are free labs available. There are free training resources available, as well as I think on a weekly basis, they do these AMA kind of sessions. So you can actually join online, and there are trainers available for you to answer any questions on a weekly basis. So definitely go check this out. And especially if at all you are aligned in any one of these data and AI certs and you really want to skill up, definitely go to ak.ms/Data AI Academy, and you'll definitely get what you want in terms of free certification, free learning resources, as well as some fantastic labs out there.
Amazing. So yeah, that's ak.ms/Data AI Academy, in case you missed it. Thank you, Darsha. So we're coming to the end, but I really, really want to highlight and thank the amazing presenters that we had today. So let's give them a round of applause. Yay! All right, thank you again, Anthony, Frank, Richard, Karen. Amazing stuff. We're super happy to have had this opportunity to connect with you all. Folks, feel free to come off mute and kind of give some maybe last words, some other cool sessions folks can check out. That maybe happened yesterday. Definitely, if you haven't seen the keynote yesterday with Scott Hanselman, Kayla Cinnamon, it was just absolutely amazing. So definitely recommend those. And I'm just very sad. Sorry, I'm at a loss for words. I'm very sad that this is over now. I'm not gonna lie.
I think I had a fantastic time hosting all of you and really listening and actually engaging with so many of you with such fantastic questions. There are a couple of questions which I think are unanswered. So Anthony, there's a question from Davis, if you can check that out. He's basically saying, Anthony, but open to anyone who wants to jump in. With the recently announced NVIDIA A100 teasing exponential computational power for data centers, what do you expect the cloud computing and AI neural net landscapes to look like over the next few years?
So what we're experiencing now, and the fact that the information is being digested on the edge, is that we have more precise data that's coming in, and as you know, data is growing exponentially, right? I think 80% of the world's data has actually been stored within the last 2 years, and that's growing very rapidly, as you know. It's only going to be better in terms of precision of outcome and precision of digestion of said data as we move forward, and getting more intricate in terms of the data. We're already at a pace where we're having services understand objects that they're looking at, but there's still limitations in terms of the amount of objects or the number of objects. I'm currently testing out a Jetson NVIDIA box that I put together, a breadboard, and it's currently picking out 50 objects at a time. I'm trying to scale it up to 1,000. And then there's also motion in terms of that you have to take in consideration as well. All this compute power also generates heat, which you have to address, and so on and so forth. So having the ability of having additional GPU power to do the digestion of the data on the back end will only further the edge computing capabilities as well. Precise data in, precise response or prediction out. It's just going to advance it so rapidly. It's going to become, mainstay or mainstream shortly.
Fantastic. All right. Does anyone else have any last words? I think we have 4 minutes left.
There's a link from Piali in the chat for a blog post about Learn TV if everybody want to learn more about it through the end. So it's doc.microsoft.com/learn/TV.
Perfect. Right. And it kicks off right after build, I believe, was mentioned. Awesome.
And remember, too, all the sessions that are at build are being recorded. So after build has been completed, you'll actually be able to see or rewatch all the sessions that were delivered over the last couple of days.
Perfect. So I can rewatch this. All right. Yes.
Yes, the session is actually being recorded too, which is right.
Yeah. In fact, one of the sessions, I don't know if you guys got that, there was a session by Mark Razinovich who was basically talking about the futures. Did you guys see that session? I thought that, the way he's building his team out to really think about what are the next incubation projects that he's going to work on is fantastic. And I don't know, Anthony or Frank or anyone else, do you guys know some of the projects, some details of some of them which are kind of coming out? Do you guys have any idea?
There was a lot of talk of Dapper utilization. What I do know is that every conference that Mark Razinovich speaks at, the lineup along the hallway is just immense. And so the fact that it's actually been recorded and you can actually watch in the comfort of your own home, oh my God, it's so beneficial to everybody. There was a lot of talk of serverless. There was a lot of talk of Dapper utilization and how they're integrating the services even more tightly. The presentation that was delivered was around the wrapper of Twitter and understanding sentiment of tweets that are being posted at a much more rapid pace. It's you got to watch his video. You got to watch his delivery and presentation because, like I said, usually it's a hard time to get in to his session, and the fact that it's recorded, huge benefit to everybody on the call.
Great. There's one, I don't know how much time, we have 1 more minute. So there are a couple of few more questions which I'm seeing out here. So first of all, Anne, you said great use of your Wednesday afternoon. Thank you so much for that. We are always happy to spend more time with you all. Marco's actually asking, is there a forecasted time for future dev meetups in Toronto planned or still online due to COVID-19? So based on, and please feel free guys to jump in, based on what we are seeing, most of them are on hold. Most of them are actually online. So if at all you know user groups and meetups who want to go digital and who want more support, because we are actually supporting a whole bunch of user groups to use some of our tools to go online and do the digital engagement. So definitely reach out to us at msdevca or at devca@microsoft.com, and we'll definitely try and help you go online if you want that kind of a support. But as of now, we are seeing a lot of the user groups and communities not really engaging. But if some of them are reaching out and asking for support, we are more than happy to help them support and do some marketing and give them the right tools to go out them online. That's it. So I see it's Chris says, thanks everyone. Loved it. Thank you, Chris. Great to hear all of that. And we have, you can post your events online at Ottawa because I posted the announcement. Okay, the good thing for some of you, if at all you guys are hosting any kind of meetups and you guys want to talk or do anything with Microsoft, just tag us at MSDevCA with anything that you guys need, and we'll be more than happy to look into MSDevCA and keep a track of if anyone's reaching out, and we're more than happy to amplify the work that you guys are doing. So we are all about the community. We are the community. We are for the community, and we'd love to support anything by the community. So definitely feel free to reach out to us. Okay, I think we are at time, and it's 5:01. Kim, over to you for some final words, and then we can close this.
Well, can we keep going? Does it stop at 5? Like, do I have time for more bad jokes? Like, I can go on.
Well, you can go on. We have 66 people still online, so.
Maybe I could give one last one, but I don't know what good one is. No, but thank you all for joining us today, and do take advantage of the rest of the sessions. Again, they're all recorded, so you'll be able to view them again later. And it's been incredible to see how grateful the community has been, and the fact that companies can, in a way, send all their employees to build this year. We've seen that feedback, and it's been very warm in the heart kind of thing. So thank you for being with us, and hope you had as good as a session as I have. I'm trying to find one last one, but there's no more.
Send all your best jokes to Kim on Twitter. So
yeah, please do.
For the next session.
Okay, I have one more. Knock knock.
Who's that?
Icon.
Oh.
You're supposed to say icon who?
Icon who? Sorry, I thought Frank.
Icon, make you open the door. Okay, last one. Thanks,
okay,
everyone.
I take on that note.
Yeah, on that note. See you next year.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.